I'm not quite sure if the Old Testament story is true or not about Adam and Eve. Their task really was quite simple. So many thousands of years ago, God creates things. There are lots of wonderful things around that can be the creator of pleasure and comfort. All they have to do is just behave in one particular way. There's a tree somewhere out there. Their task is not to get too close. Should they get close, not to touch. Should they touch, not to pick. Should they pick, not to bite. Should they bite, not to chew. Should they chew, not to swallow. That was the only task. Well, free will, that's complicated. We can save that for a different time. So we're basically really just talking about human behavior. And that was the only thing they had to do. And so it seems like they had some flaw in their system, in the way they were thinking, imagining, fantasizing, whatever the case may be. So of all the million trees out there, they, for some strange reason, became interested in just that one particular tree. And so they behaved in a certain way, and God caught them, and here you are. It doesn't have to do with school. It doesn't have to do with society. It's just the way we are. We have a tendency of, The story, of course, is far more complicated, but we'll save that for a different day. But if you want a very simple answer to your question, are these classes offered in four-year schools? Yes. Are they useful? No. But then that begs the question, what things exactly in life are useful? And not much.
I guess for a philosopher.
No. I mean, no. Any other questions before we... No one?
Oh, first assignment.
Of course.
So, how exactly I've read it, writing an essay on it. Do it like paragraph, video, or you
Just write an essay on each of the videos.
okay.
Yeah, and just, do the best you can.
And pick a topic from within that.
Sure, yes, that relates to you,
Right. Well,
that interests you.
not the whole thing.
Oh, no,
Just
even,
pick out
yeah.
something that has stood out for me.
Yeah, that would be too cruel to have you do,
Right.
yeah.
So, just to be clear, we're gonna pick one of the four?
So you're gonna pick all four, all five actually, and then you're gonna pick one thing out of those five, from each of those fives that you find interesting.
Watch the video, pick out something that stands out for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All this.
We're gonna figure out something.
500 words.
It's up to you. Writing is like a relationship. It's like a date with an idea. Some dates are just bad. You have a copy and you want to run away. Some dates are really good. You have coffee, dinner, and then you take them home. And then you realize they're bad.
Some are just boring.
So, anyone else? No one? Okay.
So, this is not a right or wrong, quick.
Of course it is.
It's not a right or wrong.
It is.
So, if my opinion is opposite, and I support it, I get grade, right?
Kevin, they have a saying about marriage. May I share that with you?
Sure. I was married.
Yes. Those who are not in a relationship, they say marriage or relationships are like going to the bathroom. Those who are not in it want to go in it. Those who are in it want to get out. When you first begin to do anything that sounds interesting, sounds exciting, you assume that it's going to be the bringer of a good amount of pleasure for you. You look forward to it, and you spend a good amount of physical, emotional, intellectual, even spiritual energy on it. Imagine you like someone, and that like becomes an infatuation or obsession, and you pursue it. And you begin to think about this thing all the time. And there are good reasons as to why we behave this way. And there comes a point where you've had enough of it. It's like Zachary's pizza or any dish that you enjoy eating. And after a while, you say, I don't think I want to have another slice. I'm going to throw up. How could something that gave you so many good feelings all of a sudden become so toxic? That's how it is. And so when you talk about opinions, right or wrong, grades, success, the truth is when time passes, almost everything that you begin to examine about yourself, about your life, you'll begin to disapprove. Your relationship with time changes, your relationship with yourself changes, what you've accomplished, your failures, everything changes. I mean, human beings, for the most part, are grieving animals. You have no choice but to be sad in life. So, and you just have to kind of look at the Gospels. You don't find Jesus laughing anytime in any of the Gospels. Look at the dialogues of Plato. He doesn't laugh or smile. Muhammad, Moses, none of these people believed that life was enjoyable, And if you like books such as like the Gospel of Nicodemus, check that book out. It's quite interesting. But we'll save all of those for future. It's only the third day, really the first day, where we're going to kind of get a little dirty with ideas. Anyone else? You sure? Your task is to come to class with questions. And then, Bifu? 4. And 1 reading. Yeah.
So those are the 4 videos for the whole semester?
No, just for 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Oh, 4 videos for 3 weeks? Yeah, okay, then there's more material, okay.
Sadly, yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else? Abi?
What is dirty?
I'm sorry?
What is dirty?
Dirty? Dirty. I'll give you a couple of examples, and they may be wrong, but I'll give them to you nevertheless. And it happens during moments when we fall in love. For the most part, we are nothing but pieces of meat. We are engaged in this rat race called life, and life is exhausting. It's brutal. It's uncaring, as the Algerian philosopher Abu Camus would say. It doesn't care for your hopes. It doesn't care for your dreams. It doesn't care about getting rid of racism or creating equality. Life doesn't care for any of those things. Life creates lions and life creates lamb or sheep. And its task is really quite simple. Life just creates. What the lion wants to do to the sheep, that's their business. Life has no care for it. So as you and I kind of are engaged in life and we're just, busy doing what the day requires, and we can make it a bit more complex, like you're married or in a relationship. You just go to Pete's Coffee to grab yourself some coffee, and it's a cold day, and you're standing in line, and your wallet falls to the ground, and before you're able to bend over and pick it up, this person, this guy, depending on your sexual orientation and who you like, bends over, picks up your wallet or your purse, and hands it to you, and your eyes meet. It's been an innocent day so far, You're not trying to do anything unsavory that would jeopardize your mental health, your relationship. And he hands over the purse, and your eyes meet, and all of a sudden you feel something. You don't know why you feel this way. You don't even know how it happened. It's magic. عشق استرلاب و اسرار خداست. That there are some events in life, they are mysterious. We don't know where they come from. We don't know why they happen, how they happen. But they happen nevertheless. And, you say a simple thank you and you want to go about your business, but there is something about this interaction that just doesn't leave you alone. You have this intense desire of tapping this guy on the shoulder and say, what's your name? You didn't have to do that. And that's not really what you want to do. What you want to do is you want to, what the Greeks call ludos. It means to be flirtatious, but it's not flirtatious simply because you seek attention. You have felt something and you want that feeling to continue. And so you tap his shoulder and he says, yes? He says, yeah, I just want to thank you again. By the way, what's your name? What's your phone number? Where do you live? And the thing about this episode is that there is something profoundly mysterious about pleasure because it's all consuming. Once you're in its cradle, your ability to sit back and reflect, it's not there. The pleasure has you, you're like swimming in this ocean that gives you so much joy. It pushes you into the present moment and you don't think about the past, you don't think about the future, you just are swallowed up by the moment. And then, he says, well, I have a couple of minutes where I'm going to sit and you can join me if you wish. And you say, well, I have to go to work, I have to pick up my kids, call my husband or my wife or this or that. You look at your time, you say, well, I think I can make up some good excuses. So you sit, you have a cup of coffee, and a minute turns into 5 minutes turns into 10, half hour, an hour passes by. And then all of a sudden your alarm goes off and you say, oh, I have to go. And as you're driving, something really strange happens. You're stuck between two worlds. The world of all the promises you had made to yourself, to your companion, to your children, for yourself, for your life, and this newfound experience that has brought something back to you that you had forgotten for so many years. Passion, love, intimacy, someone who's willing to listen to you, be interested in you. Because almost all things under the sun, after a while, when you do them over and over again, you become so callous to them, indifferent towards them. And as you're driving, you live in two worlds. In one world, you feel really guilty. You have transgressed. You have committed a sin against God, against humanity, against yourself. In the other world, it seems like you've been baptized. Something from above has descended into your life, and you feel refreshed, you feel rejuvenated, you feel resurrected from the dead, if you will. But then you go home, and there is your husband or your wife or your kids, and you feel bad for what you have done. You haven't even done anything. All you've done is just sat, and you've talked to someone. But sitting and talking to this particular person has brought about so many emotions that you had forgotten, emotions that you long to have, but for some strange reason, they don't come by very often. And then as your husband or your wife standing there looking at you, you feel dirty. That's one form of dirtiness, There are lots of, I only use this example because it's rather exotic and mischievous. It resembles the Garden of Eden story, where, despite having everything in life, you long for something that life hasn't yet given you, and you want it. You can't get it from your husband, or your wife, or your work, or your whatever the case may be. And you do things, and that one of the wisdom of the Old Testament Genesis story is that you have no choice but to get caught. And in getting caught, you feel ashamed. And then getting back to the person's good graces, whether it's yours, your parents, your companions, your kids, it doesn't really matter. It's really, really work. One of the best movies that kind of speak about this is the movie The Wrestler by Mickey Rourke, I think. Mickey Rourke, yeah. He has a one-night stand. The production of this casual sexual encounter is a young girl. He has a child. But he's a young man. He doesn't really know the seriousness of sex. He doesn't really know the seriousness of having a child. So he just goes off doing his own stuff. And then he gets this news that he has cancer and is going to die. Or he has a bum heart. And you know, when you realize that you're going to die or you don't have much time ahead of you, all these narratives that have been hidden inside you, they come up. I mean, you know, the prospect of death just forces this gate to be open, and all these stories come up. And you begin to kind of face, you know, all these narratives that you have pushed down, intentionally, unintentionally. And then he comes to realize that he has a daughter he hasn't seen for over 20 years. And he goes and knocks on her door, and she hates him. And she hates him for what he put her through. And, you know, he begs, he repents, and like God, she forgives. They go out on a date, they have a great time. And he says, okay, next week. And she says, yeah, it'll be really, really fun. But then, you know, he spends his night, you know, the Friday night with two women. He gets up late. By the time he drives to, you know, his daughter's house, it's like midnight. She is pissed. And she says, I just don't want to see you anymore. And he goes back to the wrestling ring and, you know, gets on the rope and jumps. And that's where the movie ends, i.e. he's dead. You have to forgive me because I lost my train of thought. So what happens when you drink, you know, too many cups of coffee. So I guess before we, maybe I should go to the beginning, yes? Unless you have any other questions. David, you look a little, I mean, Kevin, you look a little puzzled.
Well, yeah, because you said the beginning
Of you. Yeah.
We'll never get there.
Oh, it's not that difficult, trust me. Anyone else before we begin? Julian? Oh, yes, of course. Okay. That's it? No one else? Enyame? Jameson? Casera? Kamani? Okay.
I got a good question.
Allahu Akbar. Yes.
While we got our desk clear, we can't take notes that are inspired.
Yeah, it's okay. You don't need to take notes.
But I'll forget.
It's okay. I mean, we forget most things in life. Let this be another one. Yeah.
I've learned that I will forget life. I don't.
We have this Persian poet. His name is Hafez. I'm not going to tell you much about Persian culture, Persian literature, or poetry. And the line that he has kind of goes like this: Ma bedin rah na peye hishmatu jah amadeim, az bad hadise inja be panah amadeim. If I was to kind of explain these couple of lines in a very casual way, there is Abi and there is Julian. Julian was in this class, the same course last semester. And once you've taken a class and you've earned a passing grade, you can't really enroll in that class. And yet, you know, he's sitting here. He could have been in bed having a nice nightmare, but no, he chooses to dress up and come to class. There is my good friend Abi, who I met when she was 18. Now she is 43. And the first thing I suppose that you should ask yourself is, well, why are they here? You know, life is a big thing. This room is like a cage. It's not even a very pretty room. It's ugly. The seats are bad. I can't even say that the people in the class are very attractive. I mean, they are, but I mean, please, don't take offense. Don't take offense. Just look yourself under a microscope. Now, and so you have to ask yourself, why is it that they're here? They could have been in 1,001 different places, and yet they choose to be here. And if you happen to be a bit more perceptive, you would say that because they're condemned. Condemned by what? We don't really know. Maybe we can get to know in a little bit. But of all the places they could go, they could be, they could do, they choose to come to this class. And the ideas we talk about in this class are not really happy. They make you sad, they make you think, maybe even depressed. That leads into loneliness and then grief and then therapy, if not bottle and smoking. Since none of us came into existence by our own will, it's not a bad idea to go back in time and ask, how is it that we came to be alive? And since some of you have openly or perhaps discreetly expressed that you don't like your mom or perhaps your dad, it's not a bad place to start the class. So we can go back in time and kind of figure out why we're here. And it also tackles Julian's question in regards to the five senses. Any questions before we begin? Jameson, yes. This is Kevin. Not you. A different Kevin. It is. This Kevin is 18 years old. And we're not going to talk about the five senses just yet and their impact on our psyches and how they guide us doing all sorts of nasty things. So Kevin one day is sitting home having his Subway sandwich when the phone rings, and it's Jameson. He says, listen, I have a party at my house. There are lots of people invited. And Kevin asks, are there women? Jameson, yes. A party without women is no party at all. What time? Kevin asks. 6. When will it end? When you want it to end. So Kevin goes to this gathering and let's get a different marker. Looks good?
Girl.
Good job. Girls are okay?
Yeah, girl.
Okay. So he's standing in a corner somewhere and the music is loud and there is this young woman. And as you can no doubt tell by now, he is quite shy and reserved. At least that's how he's turned out to be these days. I don't know how he was way back then, but probably shy and reserved. People don't really change that much. And so he has 5 senses. He has his eyes, he has his ears, he has his nose, okay. He has his tongue, and he has his touch. Accidentally, as he's just skimming the room, he looks out there with his eyes. For some strange reason, his eyes send a message to his brain. She is attractive. It's very organic. You don't need to read a book about this. You don't need to think about this. You don't need to reflect. You don't need to examine. You don't need to be like a Socrates. An unexamined attraction is no attraction at all. You look out there she is. And your sense says she is very, very, very attractive. Now, here's the thing that you need to understand. Once his eyes laser on this beautiful young woman, he is focused, hopefully, for the rest of the night. Unless, of course, another woman appears who happens to be more attractive than she is. And it all depends on where the eyes are going and what the eyes are seeing. Kevin doesn't need to do any interpretation. It's all done for him. Okay? There is no doubt at this point. Unless Kevin has a girlfriend, he's going to a party, he just wants to sit back and relax, he sees this woman, and the moment attraction comes about, something very interesting happens. From the seed of attraction, if Kevin keeps looking at her direction, he'll become curious. I wonder who she is. I wonder if she lives around here. I wonder what she is. I wonder how old she is. Does she have a boyfriend? You see, you can be attracted, and then your phone can ring and you can go back to your business and she will disappear because your conversation on the phone will engage you, inspire another set of emotions. But that's not the case for Kevin. Okay? Kevin is simply focused. There are no distractions. He keeps fantasizing about this young woman, and then he becomes curious. He keeps asking all these questions inside his own head. Who is she? What is she? All this and that. And curiosity leads into this thing called interest. This is not God. This is not fate. None of those things take place here. Okay? Bring it down. Look at it like a science. So just in case you go out there and find someone and get together with someone, please don't say, oh, God made this happen for me. No, God didn't. Okay? Now, remember, as attraction turns into curiosity, as curiosity turns into interest, you become more and more invested, imaginatively, intellectually, and emotionally. Okay? And imagine these to be seeds. And how do you nourish any seed, protect any seed? By making sure no harm comes to them. Just in case Kevin's friend comes and say, hey, what do you want? Kevin says, don't distract me, I'm attracted. If another distraction comes about, if the phone rings, he shuts it off. Because why? He wants to keep nourishing curiosity or keep nourishing interest. These are seeds. At any time, they could get demolished. In other words, if the phone rings at the stage of interest, and the news is, Kevin, your mom just had a stroke, come home, she's going to disappear. Okay? The image of his mom is going to all of a sudden enter his psyche. Okay? So as long as these remain protected and continuously nourished, she will be present. Now, something really interesting now happens at the point of interest. He can't simply sit back and say, I wonder who she is, what she is. He actually wants to walk towards her, ask her questions, hear her up close and personal. All of a sudden, Kevin is no longer a simple human being. He becomes a political human being. How should I approach her? What should I ask her? How should I ask her? Do I smell good? Does my hair look good? Am I dressed properly? And then he may find himself to be a little nervous, a little shaky. He tries to put himself back together. Okay? Remember, we are very, very complicated. And you may not be aware of all the stuff that's taking place inside you, but it is. So you walk towards this woman. Now, why do you want to walk towards her? It's called desire. Nothing in life takes place if there is no desire. Jameson was kind enough to bring me coffee. Why? We left this class last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Today is Monday. That's 4 days. Was he thinking about me after class on Wednesday? Maybe Thursday, maybe Friday, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday. But somewhere deep within, I had a space inside Jameson. Maybe Jameson likes me. Maybe Jameson likes me only for a grade. Regardless, there is a desire inside him. And that desire does what to him? Either Safeway or Pete's Coffee. Maybe he just went somewhere, no one was looking, put this in his backpack and came out. Okay? Now, this desire that started with simple attraction has now blossomed into interest. He now becomes a political animal. He walks towards this woman and looks at her and says, and you know, when someone is far away, they look really, really good. When you're up close and personal, you have no idea if they're going to still look good or not. So he gets very close to her and she comes to realize, she's very attractive. And then he says to her, what is your name? Now what you have is the presence of his ears. Now something really interesting happens. She could have a really, really nice tone of voice, like, hi, my name is, I don't know, Julie. Or it could say, hi, my name is Julie. Now, it is true that she looked good to the eyes. The next step is she needs to also sound good to the ears. If her voice is, hi, my name is Julie, you have a positive here, a positive here. If on the other hand, she says, hi, you have a positive and then you have a negative. Depending on how bad her voice is, you'll either stick around or just run away. Okay? Or you'll say, I just want to look at you. Just keep your mouth shut. Okay? And that usually doesn't happen. Now, let's say they are both positive. And as they're having a conversation, really it depends on what the conversation is all about, where he is intellectually, emotionally, how mature he is, how much of a novice he is, if he can endure nonsense or chit-chat, or he wants a conversation that is meaningful. If he finds that she is a bimbo, she doesn't think well, she's stupid, he's going to walk away. And that's profoundly interesting. He's an 18-year-old kid. Okay? And what do 18-year-olds want? Perhaps, sexual intimacy, maybe. Okay? But the moment he comes to realize that she is hollow, she has no substance, he walks away. That's a lot to overcome for an 18-year-old. Okay? But regardless, he sticks around. Now comes the nose. As they're standing close, they're having a conversation. She has this perfume on. She either likes it, or maybe she has nothing on, or no perfume on. And maybe she just smells really, really, really bad. And Kevin may say, well, she looks good, she sounds good, but she smells like trash. Yes. He'll either stay or he'll leave, depending on his nose. Okay? Yeah.
So he can interpret perfume as
Well, nothing is it's really not up to him at all. His senses will tell him what he needs to do. There is no free will.
You know, just to follow up on those things, there was a girl, we were traveling to Paris on the train. She was gorgeous. She was a woman that I learned to speak French for. And I was looking at her and I walked over there and I talked to her and she pulled her arm up. And it's like,
Thank you, Kevin. That's, yeah. Okay, now. Now, let's say that this is positive as well. Now, let's just say that after standing, talking, and all of it, and they kind of date a couple more days, it's no longer at the stage of attraction, nor is it at the stage of curiosity or interest. Kevin finds himself infatuated. All of this is taking place for one simple reason: time. The more time you spend with anyone or anything, the more stories you create